Welcome to our casting couch. We have Dr. Mike Israetel and Jared Feather, IFBB Pro.
Most important thing we had to say.
Yeah, of course I have to identify as such.
The faces of Renaissance periodization. I had to throw that one in there, right?
Perfect.
Okay. That's good.
We appreciate you guys making the time.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Well, the first thing that I honestly wanted to jump in and ask about is Jared is clearly your biological son, Mike.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So, how did this even happen? Clearly, there was birth giving at some point, but beyond that, I mean, Jared's your biological son. What's the backstory here?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Well, it's like with all children. You see, the stork delivers them,
Mhm.
and we take good care of the children that come to us via stork.
I'm pretty sure the stork was a story of adoption and how it was actually a good thing. So I'm not your biological son?
I think the stork is like what you tell little kids when they're. Were you allowed to swear on here?
Oh, you can
do whatever you want.
You cursed a ton last time too, so
That's
if
right.
go off.
It's tough to explain to little children that, well, your mother has sex organs and dad wanted that shit.
Well, now I'm 30, so what actually happened?
I had sex with your mom,
Okay.
Dr. Crystal.
Oh, Dr. Crystal's my mother.
That's right.
Weird, I was raised by someone, but go ahead.
That's okay.
Yeah.
False memories implanted by aliens. But now I'm back in your life, Jared. I swear to God, we're going to win states together. My son. I'm so fucking proud of this boy. You should see him throw a football.
Well,
God
we got a great strength conditioning coach right now.
That's why we're here. We're here to get you looked at by the best.
Fuck.
We're going.
That's you. That's not me.
Dad has taken son as far as he'll go.
That's right. I'm rebellious. I don't want to listen to him anymore.
Yeah,
so
no,
we got to
no,
have
no.
somebody else come in and
you're
go recruit someone else.
Rush out.
You got some daddy issues
Take
coming
over.
up? Is that what it is?
Quite a bit.
Don't worry. We'll talk. Jared's like, for real though, a lot. Yeah, that's how it is, man. You try to raise these kids good, and hopefully they honor your fucking legacy. You know, the thing is that people don't understand is I went really far in high school sports. What was that injury I got, Jared?
Was it when you were playing 12-year-old Jewish Community Center Class B tennis?
I like how he does remember the very fine details of that.
Is that actually the detail?
Yes. So
Because he's great at tennis.
I went to Jewish Community Center day camp when I was a kid.
Oh my God.
And you understand this is the peak of athleticism. This is like American Samoa, you know? Just freaks everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
And I couldn't compete in the Class A tennis camp division.
Because they were too good.
Because there's just rich kids, man.
Right,
who
I know
could
that.
afford
Yeah,
to
that's
play
what I meant.
tennis all year round. Your boy only picked up that racket every summer. You heard me? And but when I picked it up, you know what I'm saying? Like myself and the racket both turned to gold. There's that kind of feeling. Connection. And I knew I was destined for this shit.
Connection.
And so, spirit connection. And so I laid the fucking hammer down on these goddamn Jews. Of which I am one. That's cool. It's cool to say. It's cool to
Dr.
say.
Mike taken out of context.
We'll see. Yeah. you look at my last name and you're like,
That clip is going to live somewhere.
They had it coming, fellas. They thought they were good at tennis. They ain't never seen some shit like me. I'm a goddamn phenomenon out there. And so, I decided I was just going to, when I was like 11 or some shit, I won the whole thing, which is the final end of summer tournament, Class B. It was Class A. Some of those kids went to college who played tennis. Fuck that. I wasn't that good.
They were probably on PEDs.
Yeah.
Dude, for sure. A couple of them, like a lot of pimples.
Were they better
You're
than you?
12. Why do you have pimples? You're on fucking.
Were they better than you, Pete's? Were they taller than you, Pete's? Yeah?
More talented peds.
Pete's.
More desire peds. Train more consistently peds. So in any case, honestly, it's the athletic pride of my fucking life. You know? I've won a few jiu-jitsu tournaments. I've done pretty well in bodybuilding at the amateur level. Not shit compared to that fucking glory, man. When you're 11 years old and you fucking just open up on a pimple-faced 12-year-old, shut him down on the fucking tennis court, no one's watching.
Yeah, needless to say, his athletic career was short-lived, and hence why I have daddy issues.
Because I'm like, Jared,
Do everything
you're going to
that I didn't do, goddammit.
Well, see, the real story is, instead of pursuing my dream of being a state champion in athletics writ large, I met Jared's mom, Dr. Crystal, and we had our little boy, our son, our seed, our fucking pride and joy, goddammit. And he's going to do what I couldn't because I gave him the opportunities to, and you know what? Talk all that shit. Mike's a joker. Jared, are you a professional athlete?
I am.
Boom! Fuck you, tennis camp. My son carrying the fucking legacy. That's all I gotta say.
Oh my god. All right, 10 minutes of Mike's bullshit aside.
So it really happened. Like, I think a lot of people see, obviously they see this dynamic, but like, like that clearly is not how it started. I don't imagine. I don't know many people who started like this, and this is where they're at. Like, this is where you're at now. But I'm sure it started differently in a classroom setting.
I think someone listening though definitely shed a tear.
Yeah,
probably.
it's
It's
one
a
person in the
heart-breaking
world.
tale.
Probably someone in the
God.
Midwest who has a stepfather exactly
shit.
like that.
Yes.
you know?
My daddy. Yeah. So the first time I met Jared, I don't remember it because he says we met in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But I meet a lot of people in the gym, and all white folks from the Midwest look the fucking same. No offense,
Including Jared.
including at the time Mr. Jared Feather. But then he was a student in my classroom in the first semester of me teaching at university, my first ever, outside of my PhD program, my first ever professorship at the University of Central Missouri, where he was already an undergraduate in exercise science, and I had him in class. And I remember that, like, he looked pretty good aesthetics and, like, kind of big delts. And I was like, okay, dope.
Here, that's front and center classroom who's checking me out.
front and center.
I wore my Titus outfit, little mini skirt. It's like, damn.
Glasses like halfway down the nose.
This is for sure going to get us canceled. What I got to say.
The last two interviews of yours I've seen are polished. This is like, oh my god.
I wouldn't
Brazzers has
call
nothing on
what
this.
I was doing to Jared grooming in the technical sense, because he's of age, but barely. And so
I was 19.
Yeah,
It was good, man.
It was good.
legal.
God,
Sorry.
so innocent. I groomed his dumb ass up, and then we were hooking up, and it was just like it just felt right, In class, in the halls, just making out. It was hot.
Janitor
Straight
closet.
Janitor closet. We both came out of the closet, literally and figuratively.
Damn it.
No, but
Yo.
honestly, like all of your viewers are like, dude, fuck this. I'm out.
You already lost half the viewers,
Yeah,
guys.
that's
We're
it.
sorry.
You
I'm
guys
not gonna lie, we probably got a bunch of viewers from that beginning.
Not the kind of viewers you want, though.
Yeah, you know what they say, good any attention is good attention.
Sure. Yeah. Weinstein's still in jail, though, so he's getting a lot of attention there he probably doesn't want. So in any case, the real story is Jerry and I met on Epstein's Island. Now, I don't like to say that out
I knew it
loud
was
too
coming.
often.
Keeps going.
He was working there, right? Working against his will. I
He
was
was
like, "You wanna go
working
home?" He's like, "Yes, please, get me the fuck out of here." I thought I was just going to get a massage, but he was like, I touch your shit now. And I was like, no, Jesus Christ, what kind of Epstein's a normal banker? He's like, he's not, bro. I'm like, let's get the fuck out of here. So we swam. But any case, no, he was a student front row, and he was just sharp. He was with it, and he asked a lot of questions, and he debated me, which I love my students to do.
It's kind of an insult thing to do, huh?
Very insulting.
Looking back,
Yes.
I don't think the rest of the classroom gave a shit.
Yeah, but also, like, no offense, fuck the rest of the classroom.
No, I agree. That's how I felt.
There are two types of students. People that are there to get a grade, or maybe even not, just there because football coach says you have to go to class. And people who are there to learn earnestly. And Jared was there to learn. I was there to teach. And then so he would come to office hours. Was one of the only people who've ever gone to my office hours. And no joke, almost no one ever come to my office hours in general. Maybe it's the body odor. I don't know what.
Probably.
All the grooming jokes. As I start first class, I'm like, how many of you know what grooming is? They're like, I'm kidding. We didn't even use that term back then. I learned that word like a year ago or some shit. Do you know what that means?
No.
That's for the best. If I explain it, we're for sure getting canceled. So, in any case, at some point, I guess Jared got hurt.
Oh yeah.
And he was playing basically charity volleyball game.
Yeah, it's big pink volleyball for like breast cancer awareness. It was a fundraiser.
Jared showed up, thought he was going to see some titties, but they lied to him.
They did.
And they were like, jump up and hit this ball, but when you land wrong, so your fucking knee busts out of your ass and tore your what now?
ACL and meniscus.
Yeah, so he did himself straight, and then he showed up to class like with the fucking whole thing and the cast and everything, and I was like, oh shit. And he told me how it happened, and I was like, God damn it, Jared. And he was like, I know. Because at this point, we were at talks, and the guy had serious potential to do real damage in the sport. And so after that, I still had him as a student in many classes. We became friends. As my last semester of teaching was coming to an end, Jared couldn't live in the dorms anymore, and he had needed a place to live. So I actually had to ask my department chair for special permission to see if Jared could come stay with me. And there, absolutely, things happened that typically would not happen between a professor and a student. Like, he probably saw things of my body that he didn't sign up for. Again, by total accident, of course.
By total accident, he means he woke me up 1 week out of my contest prep for my show and was butt-ass naked. And I roll over on the couch and his dick's in my face.
Oh, please. Oh, please.
And he's like, Jared, do you want to come watch me eat Country Kitchen? Which was just this white trash buffet style.
It was total shit.
Like egg and pancake
The skillets
place.
were good, though.
And I'm like, sure, Mike.
Did you do good at your show?
Yeah, of course.
He goes, of course. See, it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, yeah. So Jared and I got really close. No, but on a serious note, like, Jared was a person who was smart, who was intellectually very well read. He was a thinker. There are people who think, and there are people who just kind of coast. Mm-hmm. Jared wanted to know more, always. And Jared is still the best student I've ever had.
Oh, God.
And he, it's nerve-wracking every time I say that, right? And then he still thank God. And he got basically 100% on almost everything, and actually made me rethink and kind of re-solidify my ideas about things. He would ask such great questions, and I was like, do I really think that now? So, which is insanely rare. You know, most people don't even ask questions, let alone understand what you're saying. But that was that, and then he got into the master's program. I left to go to Temple University in Philadelphia, and obviously we stayed friends. And at some point, Jared was offered to come work for Renaissance Periodization as a coach, and then the rest is, I suppose, history. Yeah. He came to live in Philadelphia for a time. He did not like it. Too cold, not enough Latinas or Southeast Asians, so he left summarily, very quickly.
To San Antonio, where there are both of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, Southeast Asian. I'm here for it.
It was the thing.
They're very careful. Okay, you don't know where that hand's been.
You kind of do.
Yeah.
At
So
this point, now I do.
right. If you have any female friends or relatives of reproductive age, Jared would like to know about them. Well, that makes it very clear what is going on. But yeah, and then Jared actually joined myself and Dr. Crystal. Dr. Crystal, my wife, had a fellowship for sports medicine in Las Vegas. That's how we got here. And we were like, hey, Jared, you want to come along and live in Las Vegas for a year at least? And he's like, yeah. And then when we left, he was like, dude, I'm fucking staying.
Yeah.
There he stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Once he saw all that brown female love, he wasn't going anywhere. But also a good bodybuilding scene.
Yeah, I think through that time, we started the YouTube channel out in Philadelphia.
Yep.
So we started the YouTube channel in Philly, and we were both already out there. So we were doing a bunch of training videos, and he was doing a bunch of sit-down talks. And then over the last, how long has it been now?
It's been over 4 years at least.
The YouTube channel?
5 or 6?
Yeah, that's probably
Maybe
No, we really started the channel in 2020.
Yeah. When we moved to Vegas.
Yeah, so it hasn't really been 4 years yet. It's been like 3.5.
Yeah, well, there were a bunch of like videos and stuff recorded, and we did some cool stuff out in Philly.
Yeah, we did, but it wasn't like a full send approach to making consistent content.
Yeah.
If you make a YouTube video every now and again, you're not a YouTuber.
Right.
You just make YouTube videos on occasion. If you make consistent content, you have a release schedule, you have plans, then you're a YouTuber. The YouTube story is really funny because I was in a debate on Omar Isuf's channel with Greg Doucette, and that was a disaster. But afterwards, Greg stayed on for a little bit, just talking off camera, and he's like, wow, you're really good at this kind of like arguing stuff. And I was like, oh, thanks, Greg. And he was like, you should be on YouTube. I'm making tons of money. Wow. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And, like RP does very well, so it wasn't about the money, but I was like, YouTube seems like a thing. And I was already recording videos for our RP kind of internal platform called RP Plus, which is no longer a thing. And so I talked to Scott, the video guy, who was working for us with RP Plus, and I was like, do you want to do YouTube? And Scott said something, his reaction was really, really interesting. He was like, yeah, that sounds good. Give me a couple weeks so I can really think this through. And Scott is like the definition of a professional person.
Yeah.
And so he researched, he got the appropriate recording and sound equipment. He turned part of his apartment into like, he had like sound, like acoustic absorption wall stuff, and set up a table and a camera. And
Is that where you do your sit downs?
yes,
No?
correct. And
Yeah.
that's where we started.
Wow.
And then he was like, we need to have a plan about like what you're talking about. We need to record videos in advance before we release them. We're not just going to run and gun. And I was like, holy fuck, this is like very serious. And then so we started, and it started taking off, and it did really well. And then we had like slow growth for some time, basically a year and a half, if not a little longer. And then once we passed 500K YouTube subscribers, shit started getting pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
And around that time, we also discovered that people really like the exercise scientist critique videos. And then shit really fucking took off. And now shit is just completely fucking crazy. After we passed 1 million, it was just like...
It just goes up all the time.
So, yeah, now... since I married and don't have access to the YouTube groupies, my son has to take the fucking burden. Poor fucking guy. Everywhere he goes, women just throw themselves at him. He needs a stick specifically to poke the bitches away, and that's how we live our life, Arshad. You know what I'm saying? That's just.
I'm married too, so I understand.
Yeah.
The single people are not in relation. Not married people are on the other side of the couch for a reason.
Oh yeah.
The bald people are married.
Well, how does that work? We got bald first, and we're like, time to retire. I can't attract women anymore.
I agree.
I never could really.
If I can with this haircut, you guys are fine.
Oh please, that's a peacocking haircut. Because bitches look at you and they're like, what does he have
What is going
that
on?
I don't know about? But he can get away with that kind of haircut. 100%.
No one's gonna forget you.
Yeah.
A little Landon strip.
Slightly off topic, not that we have a topic yet, but one of the number one actual mistakes that I think guys make in trying to attract women that they're interested in is trying to impress women, man.
agree.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
agree.
Bitch, I'm not trying to impress you. Get the fuck out of my face. And if you got some energy like that, maybe don't say that literally, depending on context, it could be good. Then they understand, like, okay, this is not a needy person.
Yeah.
This is a person. One thing I was talking to my wife yesterday, just gossiping and talking shit. And one thing I told her was the kind of energy you have to bring to an interaction with a female that you're interested in is really, you can't just like say this to yourself. You have to really like believe it in some sense, kind of be it.
Yeah.
Yes. And the it is, you just got done banging the 100th supermodel that day. And you're tired. And then you meet her. And she's like, so what are we doing on our date? You're like, what do you want to do? And she's like, wow, he's not trying to get it. And she's like, do you think like this blouse is cute? You're like, yeah, I'm saying it works. And she's like, what the fuck? I had to prove myself. Guys usually beg at this point. You're just like, oh, this goddamn supermodel's wore me out. And if you really have that energy, whatever God damned you with
Laid back energy.
God damn.
it's going to go as far as it can. Look at Jerry. It's objectively an ugly
So basically,
person.
I realized that about 12 years ago. I took all that energy, and then like clippers formed in my hands, and I was like,
Yep.
Just left in the middle.
yeah, this will do.
Your first look in the mirror after that.
Yeah, I was like,
what was
fuck it.
going through your head?
Yeah, it's just fine.
This
He
is fun.
doesn't care. He's tired of having sex with supermodels all day long. Haircuts.
You
Like,
didn't have an intense moment with like Empire Strikes Back playing in the background.
Oh, it probably happened. Yeah,
pretty sweet.
I'm sure there was theme music.
That's the reason they were only in LA for a couple days. Get some PTSD from the women there.
LA women. Jared, your theme music is the fucking Barney song.
The Tupac one?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Jesus.
Back when you were a student, Jared, and you were challenging Mike on a lot of things, do you remember some of the things that you were challenging him on? If not, like, what do you challenge Mike on a lot on now? I'm very curious.
We have like
Because I'm sure when you guys collaborate, and in order to have a collaborative relationship in the way you do, like, you guys had a job.
No, sometimes we'll like disagree with shit on camera, and people just
Yeah.
love it. They're like, "Oh, okay, these are why they do different things and different variations in a different way," and I'm gonna try both and see which one I like better. Usually, we just chalk it up. We'll like talk shit to each other on camera, or whatever, make it a little fun and entertaining. Most of the time, I'm serious because I fucking hate this guy. But
That makes it
that
even better.
aside, it's oh no, but I remember we were learning about like periodization and structure for. He was doing it for basically personal training classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there were just some nuances for like what I was trying to accomplish, where he wasn't inherently wrong. I was just like, why would I do this when this is what I'm trying to do? And he's like, oh, well, that's technically correct. So there's just things like that in class because it was more structured toward like a gym pop thing. Mm-hmm. And then I would get into the more advanced courses, and it was really cool because it was a little more tailored to sport or strength sport or what I was doing. So. I mean, I know we had a lot of conversations, especially after class. Conversations. I had to get the A.
Janitor's office.
A lot of grunting.
Yeah. No, so like even, nowadays little nuances, we'll disagree on stuff here and there, but it makes for good conversation first and foremost for me and him, and then, YouTube loves it too.
Was there a specific conversation either of you recall having where you're like, this is, I can go back and I'm playing pitch and catch with someone. I'm not just being the teacher in every moment, because I think sometimes that's a challenge, whether you're a student or a teacher, where it's like the student feels way smarter than the teacher. So like, why am I here learning from someone who I feel intellectually superior to? And sometimes with a teacher, I think what they see is the student just doesn't want to learn. So what am I even doing here teaching? Do you remember any specific conversations, or were there anything that he challenged you on where you're like, okay, maybe I need to actually revisit how I'm approaching this?
Nothing specific.
No.
It was a long time ago. And I make it a point to excise specific memories of events from my mind, because I'm not joking. My dad has a very impressive episodic memory. He'll remember like the exact dates of when various events occurred and what the weather was like. And I have a proclivity for that. I can do it, but I make sure I just never try to remember that stuff, because I keep my brain as clean of a slate as possible for theoretical modeling of how the world works in as many capacities as I can understand it. Because, like, at the end of the day, it would be cool to share on the podcast of what Jared and I disagreed about. But that fraction of your mind that is taken up by that memory is a fraction that could probably better be used to understand the dynamics of fatigue and stimulus. And if I can devote most of my brain to theoretical understanding of how the world works, and especially in the industry, but in other capacities, I think any new thing that comes up, I can contextualize it in that framework, really deeply understand it, integrate it, update the framework, and go along so I can continue to develop wisdom rather than just an agglomeration of facts. So like anytime people remember very specific things, I'm like, that's very dope that you can do that. Yeah. But think about the marginal utility it has and the opportunity cost of using that brain space in a colloquial sense for that, as opposed to like understanding. So like Jared and I both have the similar approach to intellectual matters. We try to keep our lives pretty Spartan-like, not because we're hardcore or some shit, but because we just are really interested in thinking about deep intellectual relationships between concepts, and we're autistic enough. We're not interested in much else. It's like, you see how we're dressed. That people have tried to vex over our fashion choices, and like, why do you guys wear Crocs? Because they fit over your feet and they can be purchased at the store. Period. Like the way I pick my clothes to wear for the day is I have a little folded pile of every t-shirts and underwear and socks, and I just go whatever's on top, click, 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 and I fucking put it on my body. Which isn't to say like fashion is not a fucking dope thing that you can really invest into and pays on the margins. And if you're interested in it, if you like to look good, if you like to be fashionable, it's fucking awesome. When I see fashionable people, like, motherfucker, don't you think I haven't been looking at you? Look at all that young law you wear.
Shit.
Young Law.
Oh, the SRB, Young Law.
Pause. If you read it, it says Young Law. You let me know when there's
It
a
does.
space between the fucking Young
It's on
and
your
the Law.
shorts. Young Law.
That's it. And so those are free, by the way.
Literally.
So it's dope when people are fashionable, for example. But, to Jared and I, it's just like a thing that doesn't even enter our universe of awareness hardly at all. Which is really weird. And, like you go on a date and tell a girl that, she's like, okay, check please. Because it's a little bit serial killer vibes.
Yeah. And unless it's like that answer is honestly the same for, I'll get asked quite often, sorry if this is one of your questions, but what is something that you've really changed your mind on as far as like concepts go? And unless it's something like super revelatory, like back in the day, I learned about nutrient timing and I thought that carbs could just be spaced evenly, but it does seem to provide a little bit of benefit to have it mostly pair your workout. Like unless it's something like that where I'm literally in the process of learning, I don't really like, what did I change my mind on in the last 10 years? I don't know. I just kind of made sure that when I was wrong, I was open to being wrong, and I was able to have a civil discussion with somebody. And if they had to hold my hand a little bit way up the ladder, and then I was like, oh, you're probably wrong on this, and I had to hold theirs. Like, the truth is somewhere up here, and maybe someone's closer to it. We're all just kind of trying to get to it. So, like,
Yeah. Another way of phrasing that, because I get this question a lot on various podcasts, like, what XYZ number of things have you changed your mind on recently or in the last XYZ years? And one of the answers I gave in life and in a text before is I actually don't keep tabs on what I change my mind on, because on the margins, in the nuances, and sometimes in the big picture, Jared and I change our minds continuously every day. Every time we read anything, we're always altering. We don't have like a moat around our preferred beliefs. We fucking hold our ground until the moat breaks and the alligators get you, you know? There's alligators in the moat. How the fuck else is? Otherwise it's just water. So if we're not interested in kind of intellectually gatekeeping what are our very good ideas against these other bad ideas in the world, we're always looking on the margins and go, okay, that is an idea that's mostly wrong, but it has a little bit to it. We're going to adopt what we think is correct, modify our ideas, and it's such a continual process. It's like asking, like, hey, like, when's the last time your iPhone updated? You're like, I think it does it kind of every night when I go to sleep. And the answer is like, yeah, like, what were the last 5 updates to your phone? You're like, I don't fucking know. Yeah. And it happens so often, it's not really a thing of note, I don't know.
That makes sense. So what I hear when you both speak is you both seem to live in this state of like inquiry, where there's like a curious mind looking at the world, looking at the things you're doing, and being very thoughtful around whatever decisions you make as you go.
For sure. Not only that, just like an integration of like what my worldview currently is on specific topics, and like, should I be a little more open to this thing that I've been pretty closed off to in the past? So yeah, it's definitely like very inquisitive, and it's a little bit more stoic of a mindset.
Yeah,
but
it almost sounds like you're not inherently attached to being right. You're just interested in learning and understanding.
And people attached to being right are a real pain in the ass on the internet.
I would agree. Is this something you guys find is trained, or is it something that you guys learned as? I mean, Jared probably learned from Mike when he was being fathered, but is it something you learned growing up? Is it something you adopted based on experience? What led you down this path? Because I think there's a lot of people who listen to this are like, how did you get into this like stoic way of like inquiring and not being attached to one way or one belief system?
It's a good question. My personal answer, so I would kind of flip the script a little bit. The spirit of what Jared said is 100%, but I would flip the nomenclature a little bit and say, actually, I'm very, very attached to being right. It's deeply concerning to me if I'm wrong. And I also know I don't have like a divine revelatory access to truth. I don't just know things because I'm Dr. Mike. I just sit there and I jack off a lot. That's all I got, I could dependably, every some number of hours, I will masturbate. That's the only thing I'm good for sure. That's internal feedback loop. It does its own thing. Everything else I have to access from the world. I have to learn from external world, or I have to learn some stuff, process it in the brain, come up with ideas. And so the theoretical map of what the world is, the structure of the universe around us, all the human brain really is at the end of the day in intellectual matters is a very pared down, very sort of minimally informatic mapping of that. It's a simulation. And I really want my simulation of what I think the world is to be as close as possible to the real world. Otherwise, it's unfortunate. Imagine if you didn't know that muscles just pulled and you thought they pushed. You're over here doing curls thinking your triceps are getting bigger. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but there's a bunch of other stuff where your ideas about how the world works are very incorrect. And so I think all of us should be pretty fucking attached to being right, with the caveat that the what is correct is a matter of examining the world in an unbiased way, and examining your own ideas in an unbiased way, and trying to just make your best fucking guess of what I really think is going on, and being tentative, because you never have revealed wisdom. You don't 100% know that you're right. So you say, okay, this is my current idea about what's happening for now, but I could be wrong. And so if later it's shown that, well, it's actually a little bit different, or really it's 100% different, then I'm willing to be like, well, you have 2 choices then, right? Or one choice, 2 options. Option 1 is continue to perseverate in your own beliefs, even though you're wrong. And option 2 is get on the side of what's right and abandon your beliefs. And I'm 100% in that latter camp, because I do not like to be incorrect. I don't like to not know things either, especially things in my field that I should know. I'm not a big fan of mystery. I want to resolve the mystery. And if I'm muddling the mystery even further by keeping a certain number of thoughts in my head that I know for a fact I haven't intellectually examined, that I think, geez, if they saw the light of day, it'd be very likely they're revealed as bullshit. Why do I need to carry that extra baggage? I'm fighting myself on that. So I just want to be as close to the truth as possible. And so my ideas about the world get continually modified, which is my best approach at being as close to the truth as possible. Like, I'll even read comments that disagree with myself and what Jared and I say on Instagram, in sports and in politics and a bunch of other stuff. And almost always when I read a comment, I come up with ideas in my head about how this is making a good point and how it could be right and how it could be wrong. And sometimes, like, it's a lot of right. And I'm like, God damn. Very poorly phrased, clearly an involuntary celibate writing this, but goddamn, they got some good points. Or it's like, well, 50-50, or it's like, dude, most of this is just nonsense dog shit that some person of intellectually meager status has written. And then I can confidently say, well, I actually refute every single point here. And so I think that's a pretty decent way to parse the world if you're very interested in understanding things and being more likely correct than not correct. Let's call that like a real full effort, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So to this and your guys' view and outlook and the way you guys like to think, perceive things, be curious of things, ask questions, find solutions, how do you design your life to work around that? Because I think a lot of people listening or watching right now are like, for you guys to be as active as you are, studious as you are, learn the things you have, how have you designed your life to integrate with everything that you value? I mean, we talked about how you folded shirts up and it's just like, oh, top, top, top. That's one thing of life design, but I'm curious how you guys look at that, because I'm sure so many people are like, what is their day-to-day involve? and how do you design that to work with what you want to create?
So we have a pretty deep philosophical relationship with technology and things of that nature. So this could get very philosophical very quickly.
Oh, that's
you could make it spiritual if you want to.
It almost is,
so.
to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think that as educators, most people who are in this field as an educator, one of their biggest purposes and drivers is likely the fact that we do realize there's this methodical and like a codical approach to things, and there's worldviews around things, and being able to teach people and show people that something as simple as exercise can be looked at like this. Mm-hmm. You can then take that and apply that to your area of expertise or your career path or whatever it may be, and this just in general creates more logical based thinking and people who are a little bit more rational and things like that. Mm-hmm. So if we as educators are able to expand that out into the world, mm-hmm. and everybody else then can take notes on that and expand it out, it's just kind of like we're all just learning and teaching each other, and it creates this kind of like this one system of like very logical based thinkers and people that are really willing to make more progress for the human race. And if you want to get really deep into shit, for me, all of that, plus the fact that I really want to do this to help people think more logically so that there's not some sort of insane thing that happens to potentially create mass destruction, to where we can all see this technological singularity unfold so that we can then see potentially the next best step in biological.
Do you guys know about the technological singularity?
Think so, to some degree. It's not something that I actively talked about.
Enlighten.
Sure.
The pace of technological change is two things, according to the formal literature on it. It's been studied a lot by many people. Thing one is it is very predictably positive. Technology is advancing all the time, mm-hmm. on average. And thing two is it's exponential. So because it is both predictable and exponential, it's allowed a few people, Ray Kurzweil probably being the most famous, to sort of draw out through multiple ways in which technology ascends prediction curves for how advanced technology is going to likely get. Mm-hmm. And these prediction curves have been largely correct in predicting average technological trends for 30 years now. And it actually looks like the same curves occur in biological evolution as well. And so it seems like the universe is headed to a point of increasing complexity, but it's not a line, it's an exponent, it's an exponential curve. Mm-hmm. And it looks like right around the 2040s to 2050s, the amount of intelligence that machines will be capable of gets so astonishingly high, we can relate to what those machines will do as much as ants can relate to what a person would do next. Like if you sat an ant down, watch a person in the room, a human being walk around, how much could that ant predict that person's next move? I mean, he doesn't even have a prediction logic in his head, so it's entirely out of realm. And so the technological singularity is the predicted point, probably going to occur in the 2040s, 2050s, where machine intelligence is so insanely high, we can't even predict what that's going to look like, but we do know various landmarks on the way to that. For example, there's an old prediction Ray Kurzweil made, which is incrementally looking more and more likely to be true, that machines will surpass humans in general intelligence right around the year 2030. Well, it's only 6 years away.
Yeah, so long.
The impact of that is fucking insane.
Yeah.
If you remotely think about it for any length of time, it's wild. Like, whatever job you do, a machine will be able to do better. And machines have a really interesting ability that separates them from people. They can update their thinking abilities as long as it takes you to download something on your iPhone. And also machines can communicate to each other, so when one machine learns something, all of the machines on the network can learn something. So if a human being, for example, learns the basic principles of mathematics, which Leibniz and Newton roughly discovered at the same time, but how many people on Earth today can dependably give you the basic principles of mathematics? Some, 2%, the rest of them are like, I fucking just scroll on my phone. When one machine learns the principles of something, all machines know it that are of that intelligence and above. And that means the world is going to get fucking crazy in, Jared and I assess, likely the most positive ways possible. And the thing is, what Jared was saying earlier was, we're trying in our own little way, in our own bullshit way, in our little bullshit industry, to try to get people to be open-minded, peaceful, and thoughtful, and trying to get them aligned to what the reality of the universe is. Because, like, political fanaticism, religious fanaticism, which is all really bad news. They typically have very bad effects and can, the singularity is probably coming one way or another, but millions of people could die before. For example, right now in Ukraine, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men and Russian men are dying for no good reason at all, except for some crazy shit some dictator just wants to do. If Putin was a person who was thoughtful, and he's not, he would have taken Russia and created like a mega Singapore, which would have been fucking sweet. Entirely in his power to do, but he has too many emotions, too many egotistical aims, too much like testosterone-driven like conquest.
Yeah.
And that's all really bad. And so what Jared and I are trying to do in our own field by being thoughtful and intellectual is to maybe at best give an example to other folks that are just passing through, people that like lifting. They're like, oh, listen to the philosophy stuff a little bit. And like, you know what? I can make my own space calmer, more thoughtful, more progress-oriented. Because at the end of the day, one of the reasons that we're so passionate about helping bodybuilders train is because we see people with gifted genetics or with not gifted genetics training to some degree wrong. It's fucking heartbreaking. Like, this is a person that could be amazing, but now they're just going to get hurt because they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. Knowledge and wisdom are so powerful. We want to encourage them at every step. And that's a big deal. And that's, obviously some deeply philosophical shit, but is nonetheless a thing. Also, there were a lot of doubters of the singularity. It sounds kooky, right? Like, bro, machines are going to be smarter than people here in a bit, and then they're going to get so crazy smart that they're going to change the whole world. And you're like, dude, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, about 20 years ago, people who thought the singularity was a real thing was described by someone as a religion for people of IQ 145 and above. But ever since ChatGPT 4 came out, them motherfuckers real quiet. Why? Because if they want to learn about the shit, they ask ChatGPT and it talks to you like it's alive. Yeah. Talk that shit now. And people are like, you guys know what the Turing test is by any chance? It's a test to see if you basically, like, you have a computer screen and you talk to what you think is either a person or a machine, you don't know. And if, like, certain number of people, 50% of people can't tell if it's a computer or a human, then it passed the Turing test and it's officially, like, as smart as a human or whatever. They don't even talk about the Turing test anymore because GPT-4 blew that out of the fucking water.
Bar exams.
Just passing bar exams, doing all this other crazy shit. So we're just trying to push the intellectual field and get people open-minded and calm and rational enough to at least be more ready to accept the crazy technology that's going to be brought to light on the way to the singularity. So Jared and I fully believe that sometime, probably in the 2030s, universal robotics will mature, which means that we could have everyone, like a robot will cost like $1,000. Elon Musk, by the way, thinks this as well.
Finally,
Like
pet.
They're literally already in Tesla. They have Tesla bots.
Yep, Tesla bots way on their way, and like for $1,000, which is what an iPhone costs, by the way, you can have a robot that does essentially any task a human can do, short of giving hand jobs, which is where I'm going to pitch my fucking pitch. Hand job 2000. It's an incredible machine. Fellas, it'll put the fucking finger in your asshole. It'll do it all. Have some people been injured in testing? Yes. The sensors were off. The robot can really poke that ass hard. But we worked it out. Most people haven't been hurt yet. No, but on a serious note, being a thinker, being a thoughtful person, being open-minded, and aiming for kind of more knowledge and more wisdom to promote more progress, I think is a fucking sweet thing. Because at the end of the day, if you think back on what our lives are like in the year 2024, and try to go back in time and explain to someone from 1780 what the fuck you do for a living. You're going to be like, well, like I work for sports teams. They're like, what's a sports team? You're like, right. But some people actually don't have a real job. They do games to entertain. And they're like, games for the king? You're like, everyone actually. Like, what does it cost to see a game? Like, it's free. It's on television. They're like, what's a television? You're like, holy shit. Like, well, okay, I run a podcast, so I set up a camera. They're like, what's a camera? You're like, fuck. Like, well, it's this machine that records all of the visual data around you. You play back anytime. They're like, this must be something only kings can afford. Like, it's nominally expensive. I have 3 of them. Yeah. And they're just like, what the fuck? Can you imagine describing a social media influencer to like Benjamin Franklin? Fucking totally wild. Wow. And then people say like, oh man, you're talking about machines doing almost all the work for humanity and us just kind of doing what we want. That's crazy. Motherfucker, that shit is real right now for ever growing numbers of people. And so anytime you get kind of depressed or anything like that, think about that the real thing that matters in the world is progress in standard of living. And if we can all think better, think clearer, think more intellectually, we can progress in our own little path, the standard of living for everyone. So for example, RP, if you have the RP hypertrophy app, it just makes your training smoother. I use it, Jared uses it, and Jared, remember when we didn't have the app? This guy training was dope and it was awesome, but like it's just better now because the technology just helps you. Imagine having to wash your clothes with no washing machine. Fuck that. No refrigeration. You guys know that prior to like the 1930s, nobody had a refrigerator. The fuck did that even work? You just ate sort of what was around? Nonsense. So all of this expanding technology is powered by people trying to make the world better. Final rant. And the core beginning baseline of trying to make the world better is to try to understand how it works in a way that is impartial. You want it to work a certain way, but it works this other way. And that's okay. You just have to accept it. Update your mental model, continue forward, and think, how can I make the world a better place today or tomorrow or the day after in my own little world? And I think that has some value, and that's kind of why Jared and I get up in the morning together from the same bed.
With my also mother.
Also mom's in the bed. It's weird.
It's quite the experience.
It's fine. Sometimes you have bad dreams.
No, they're not dreams, my friend. They're not dreams. We used to tell him he was dreaming, so make him be able to deal with it better. But later we told him, like, that will actually happen.
Poor guy.
You had a lot of fun.
So you talk about the RP app. I'm very curious, like, how did that come about? Is that something you guys were like, for a long time, like, oh, we got to build something to change the industry? Or was it, hey, like, we noticed we have this understanding, AI is evolving, there's this opportunity in our space. Like, how did it come about, and what's that experience been like for you guys building an app? Because that's a software as a service as a whole is quite the challenging place and business to be in. So kind of talk to us about that.
The first app we built was the RP Diet Coach app. The RP Diet Coach app was built because as I was writing the original Renaissance Diet book, so we had clients in our personal training or our online coaching business, which was a Renaissance periodization at the time. And they were asking us variously for like, hey, like, why do you guys do carbs around workouts? Why do you guys do the XYZ? And it gets tiresome to write the same email 500 times to different clients, the same question. So I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm just going to write a book. And so we wrote the book. And while I was writing a chapter on how to design your own diet, I noticed that what I was describing was a mathematical algorithm for how to design your own diet. And I was like, man, a machine could do this. And I talked to Mr. Nick Shaw, CEO of Renaissance Periodization. I was like, Nick, we can build an app. And he's like, okay. And I was like, also, there's like a shortcut with Excel sheets where we do a very rough estimate of this algorithm, but with no technology, essentially. Well, Microsoft Excel. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, let's get the templates going and then see how that goes. Templates released, they did okay. Then some of the transformation pictures started coming out, and they just exploded. They made us $1 gazillion. We used that money to go approach several teams of software engineers. Mm-hmm. And they dropped the ball in a really big way, costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And during one of those times, somebody named Andrew Zay, I had a discussion with him on Facebook, and he noticed, I guess his framing was he noticed I was like a bit more rational than many other people, because he's not a disagreeable person, but he's one of these Jared types, which is like, he'll just ask the question if he doesn't agree with you. He's like, why are you saying this? I don't agree with that. And I like took him through the logic of why I said what I said, and he was like, oh, it was like, that was compelling. I was like, okay, this is a thinking person. So he hit me up and he was like, dude, I'm a software engineer. I'd love to help you like build some sort of app situation here. And I told him like, we have a team, but thank you so much. And then that team dropped the fucking ball, like irreconcilably. They were just done. They refunded us some money because they knew they fucked up. But TLDR is they posted a development version of our app to production so that someone from the Google Play Store, like a random RP person, was like, hey, I got your app, but it doesn't work. We're like, what the fuck? That's not supposed to be on there. Yeah. Good job, engineers. They took that down. That was good. They gave us a lot of money back. Not all of it, unfortunately. And I hit up Andrew and I was like, bro, let's do this. Build us a fucking app. So a big part of building good software is getting really good software engineers. Andrew asked one of his old professors from coding school if he knew any other talented folks because he needed some help developing the final stretch. That guy gave us our one of our other engineers, Alex. He's fucking mega talented. Andrew and Alex launched the first app by themselves. 2-man team launched the fucking app. And then once the app was instantiated, we had a lot of updating and upgrading to do.
Of course.
Andrew went back to one of his old jobs, which was a company that basically does data processing for satellites to map terrain and map cloud cover and all this crazy shit, aerospace engineering. And there was a 2-man team that was fucking rock star people way outside of our fucking pay grade. And Andrew was like, you guys want to come talk to Nick and Mike. You want to consider working here because it's kind of carte blanche. Nobody's your boss. We're all a collaborative team. These are super open-minded people. Because a lot of times software engineers are fucking brilliant people, but sometimes the people above them have their vision, and their vision is total nonsense, or they're just not receptive to criticism. Mm-hmm. And so we got these 2 superstars that just way outside of our, why the fuck would they come work for us? Now, they were very well compensated, but they were compensated in such a way as like, you guys help us get this money, we'll fucking make it up to you. And so we got them, and the RP Diet Coach app was a thing. We hired some more people, a designer, etc. And then, but just before then, I had already made the code logic, the pseudocode. It's not really pseudocode. The logic for how a training app would work. Sample screens, all of the main processes. Jared and our friend Dr. James Hoffman helped me vet it. And then we had that, and we put it on ice for a while because like we have to do a good job with the RP Diet Coach app. It's our main offer, main product. And then at some point we're like, okay, we're going to shift our focus. We have a little bigger team now. We're going to try to build the training app, but this time we're going to try to build it as a progressive web app so we can iterate really quickly. Because
putting that into perspective, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how long the logic was kind of just
cooking, or just
living,
staying there. Yeah. And then we built the app. It only took really about a year to build the app, the hypertrophy app, and then we alpha tested it for a few months. A lot of people in the company rightfully were like, Jesus Christ, we're releasing a progressive web app. It's not on the Google Play Store. It's not on the iTunes Store. What the fuck? But by then our YouTube was quite large. We actually, one of the reasons we started a YouTube was because I was like, hey, engineers, we're going to try to get our YouTube to really get cooking so we can give you a marketplace to sell this app.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you have an app and no one knows who the fuck you are, like, congratulations, you have an app, and it's fucking crickets. So then we released the app, and it's just been skyrocketing ever since. So I'd say a really good thing. Couple points for folks thinking about this space. The way Jared and I approach it, I believe, I don't want to speak for Jared, but I'm his fucking dad, so I will. Where's the principal? I'm here to speak for my boy. I don't know if this is the reason that you should design software or do engineering at all, but it's our reason. Mm-hmm. There is something in the world that we think machines can really help us with. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to change the industry. We didn't want to be entrepreneurs or innovate or any of that shit. All dope shit, bro. Mm-hmm. I love that shit. But we came from the perspective of like, a machine could do this. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of people out there using PDF programs, Excel programs, and all of the apps for training are like for regular people to click on pretty pictures with muscle groups and do 3x10 walking lunges. And the next week it's like 3x12. And you're like, what's the weight? And there's no algorithm program, any of that. It's not a serious attempt at truly scientific hypertrophy training. Mm-hmm. So we were like, we need this just for ourselves to solve a big problem in the real world because people do not have a really good app to guide them in their decisions in hypertrophy training. And the same thing with the RP Diet Coach app is like, we can have an app that can program your meals for you and change your diet. It's a thing that if we built, it would solve a huge problem. Mm-hmm. That's how we initially approached it. So that's thing one is maybe for some people listening, try to solve a problem in the world. That's what technology is for at the end of the day. Like entrepreneur and all that shit is fucking sweet, but a lot of people I think start at that entrepreneur idea, like, oh, I'm going to change the industry. And you're like, okay, how? And they're like, yeah, man, it's going to have an app and it's going to be great. Like, you change industries by solving problems in novel ways.
Yes.
We didn't even try to solve it in a novel way. We were just trying to solve it in the way we knew how, that nobody really had ever done. And we didn't even care that even if other people had done it, we either weren't aware of it or like, we can offer something, at least in some ways, better. And maybe in other ways, much worse. So that's fact number one. Fact number two is whoever you work with as far as software engineers, buy-in and an internal team is, I think, really preferable. There are lots of great app dev shops working and they make great apps, but usually these are like reference pulling apps or just screen shuttling apps. Like they'll pull up a thing, they'll connect to Google Maps, they'll do something. Yeah. They don't do deep logic, like they don't write computer programs. And so we were super lucky with Andrew and his team that we got like really good engineers that gave a shit. So if you have a good team of good engineers, you're going to go places. If you're just kind of wanting to skimp on money and you go and take your app development to some fucking third world country, it might turn out fucking amazing. And it usually doesn't. Yeah. And then lastly, have an open mind and listen to all comers. Listen to yourself on what you want the digital product to end up being. You're the expert. Listen to your engineering team because they have a lot to say about like this thing you want to do, this thing you want the app to do. We can do almost this thing at 1/10 of the computational demand. We can finish it in a month versus a year. What do you want? And you're like, let's do it. Because sometimes, we have all sorts of harebrained ideas about what we want the app to do. And the engineers are like, this is an insane ask. Or we're like, this is crazy. We don't want to ask you guys to do this. We're like, this is a 5-minute job. And we're like, well, that's why they know what they know. You know what I mean? Like if someone came to you, a strength and conditioning coach, and like, can you make me jump 3 feet higher? You'd be like, no. They didn't know that, So, but if someone said, can you make me 1.5 times as strong, over the course of a year, and they hadn't trained with weights, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, no problem. And they're like, well, I didn't know that was possible. So listen to all of the stakeholders and the experts that are around you so you can make the best decision you possibly can. And of course, listen to the customers. Now, listening to customers is actually quite tough. Why? Most of your feedback is going to come from 2 distinct groups of people. Almost all of your feedback, reviews-wise. Very exuberant, very thoughtful, very kind, excited folks that love RP, they love the app, they love whatever it is you're doing, and they're going to feed you just endless streams of this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Dope. They're not representative of most of your users, which are just normal people trying to use a good app that fucking works, right? You guys ever gone and written a Spotify review for the Spotify app and be like, dude, you guys are killing it. I love Spotify. Fuck all the competitors. That'd be insane. What kind of insane person are you? That's mostly Spotify doesn't deal with people like that. The other type of review is people who potentially wake up every day very upset, recalcitrant, and disagreeable and combative
Karens.
and frustrated. Did you say Karens?
Karens.
Yeah, tons of Karens. Incels and Karens all the way down. And so when you listen to them, they just hate everything.
Yeah.
And if you try to please them, you design some combination of an impossible product / a product that just shuts that person up, but they're never going to be like, wow, you guys changed it to how I like it. This is awesome. They are largely incapable of appreciating good things. Or they'll just find something else to critique. So staying in touch with your customer base is more possible when you talk to real people in the world. It's more possible based on when you instantiate a new feature in your app, how does it seem to affect sales? How does it seem to affect the general tone of reviews, knowing that most reviews are, unfortunately, totally useless. So staying in touch with your customers, another thing that gives Jared and I a huge advantage. We live the shit. We're not theorizing about how a good training app would work. We use the fucking thing. So we're chock full of ideas about how the fuck it should work, because if it works well for us, at the very least, it's going to work well for tons of other people, if not everyone. So I think some of that. Jared, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think that, like you said, with the reviews and things and listening to customers, it's tough. And I think once the Diet app, and correct me if I'm wrong, once the Diet app came out and there was at least a large enough collection of those reviews and data and stuff from clients, we didn't make the same mistake we made with the Diet app, which is with the training app, everything's customizable. Like, we could have locked you in on a specific weight if we wanted to. We could have locked you in on a specific rep count if we wanted to. Like, here's the weight you're using this week. But we know people are going to want to delete exercises. They're going to want to move things around.
Change their weights.
Do all these things. So it was like, we just need to start integrating every feature as fully customizable, because it wasn't like that in the Diet app at first, and I think that's where that's moving as well.
Absolutely.
So that was like mass data collected by users. They were like, we really want to be able to change this. Like, yeah, I get it might not be optimal in what you guys think, but I can see what you think, and then I can change my own thing because I just need to. And that's kind of how the training app works.
If a lot of people, almost everyone's saying the same thing, it's probably got at least something to consider.
Yeah.
If you have tons of people are like, dude, Spotify's last update sucked, maybe it's just a small minority and everyone else likes it.
Sure.
But you should at least red team yourself and go, does it really suck? It's real easy to get gatekeepy and greedy and be like, our app's fucking great and all these people are insane.
Like, we know the logic better. Like, it should progress this way because we know we're the experts. But like, at the end of the day, somebody was more fatigued, and I'm like, well, I didn't get 9 reps last set, so what do you want me to do? Like, okay, you
just stick to the plan. You can only say that so much. So I think a good app, in our space at least, has to have a good degree of pre-programmed function where it's like, it is the wisdom generator.
And then prompts.
It keeps you on the fucking straight and narrow if you want, but also it has to be flexible such that if you want something a little different or something happens that wasn't anticipated, you have the freedom to change almost anything you want in the app. So that it goes, okay, are you sure you want this thing? And you're like, yes. And that's like, okay, I'm just going to start treating this as the baseline, and then I'm going to go from here. It's like very good analogy, I think, in this case. I'm patting myself on the back for good analogy, Jesus. Google Maps. You get off track on Google Maps, it's not like, oh, what are you doing? It's like, this is how you get back on track. It goes, oh yeah, by the way, like, it just goes, hey, no problem, just go this way. It doesn't say, it doesn't even have a sound for when you get off track. It just reroutes the blue line to somewhere else. That's fucking amazing, right? Because there's no wrong answer. Well, unless you like drive off a cliff or some shit.
That's true. So I have a question that I think it's interesting listening to you guys. You have produced 2 apps now. Both of them currently are active. You guys, how many users do you have in each one, and do the 2 of them integrate with each other yet?
I actually don't know if user counts are proprietary or not.
That's fine. I don't know.
Probably not. I think we just passed 70,000 monthly active users with both apps combined.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jared's got a lot of money, man. You can
I can imagine.
You can probably get that fucking... Give me your wallet, you motherfucker. Where's that RP money?
How many Lambos you got out there?
I have 87 Lamborghinis.
We need to do this podcast in the Lambo.
We should have done this in the Lambo.
That'd be great.
Yeah, nobody fucking touches my Lambos but me.
But are they going to be integrating at any point? Or is there any conversations around that? Because what I personally had told him years ago, I was like, I think there is a world where you can have either one app with all of it, which goes back to your user thing, is that actually a demand? Or kind of like what you see in the fitness space as a whole, there's usually like one's a training app, one's a nutrition app. They integrate so they can kind of speak to each other.
There are plans for integrating the apps. I will say there's surprisingly little integration between the two.
Interesting.
Because it's a hypertrophy app.
Mm-hmm.
What goes differently in your hypertrophy training? If you got 15 reps versus 14, if you did 8 exercises versus 7, it doesn't change your nutrition so much that it should reflect in your nutritional program. Another thing is this. A lot of people meal prep. And so let's say today you had a workout that went a little differently than you planned.
Yeah.
What is your diet app supposed to be like? Hey, remember you prepped all these meals? JK, change all the macros. So in a sense, I think a lot of people will say like, okay, these apps can work together. And when I initially explored the space intellectually myself, I was like, okay, how? And I didn't come up with a lot. Maybe I'm just super fucking wrong, very possibly. They will eventually integrate, but it is not a number one priority, and here's why. Both apps, respectively, by themselves, can be so much better first, and then later we integrate them. It's like, before I met my wife, I was half the person that I am today, and I would have never been able to attract her before. So it's like, yeah, meet now and be together. My wife would have been like, I don't like him. And I'd be like, please don't leave me. Oh my God, I'd start crying, which again is unattractive. So our priority number one is
Tuesday,
to...
honestly. I hear it all the time. You're always begging.
I'll tell this, man. Last resort. First off, you talk to women, it's that abundance mentality. 10,000 supermodels and your boy is tired of the shit. But if that doesn't work, beg.
Beg, for sure.
Cry.
Yeah.
Get on your knees.
If you have to.
Bitches, some of them have that last little bit of sympathy, and they'll give you that shit if you really just fucking immolate yourself.
Yeah. It's not gaslighting.
It's not gaslighting. Yeah. I'm not telling you you're crazy. I'm telling you I'm crazy for you. But yeah, plans to upgrade the apps continually are always, not just in the works, are always being done. And when the apps reach a certain level of maturity, proprietary, then we're going to attempt to integrate them more so.
That makes sense. One thing, you and I talked about this the last time I saw you, about a year ago, and we were in Dragon's Lair, and I asked you, you have a background in strength and conditioning, so sports focused. Hypertrophy is obviously one aspect of that. And I remember asking you, why not build a training app that also has functions for someone who wants to get stronger or faster or increase vertical jump? And you're like, it just would never work. Could you kind of elaborate on that? Because I think in our space, what I hear a lot of coaches say is like, there should just be one app that can do all of it because everybody would just go to that one app. Why, in your experience, is that probably not a good idea?
Give me an example of an app in any other space that is just the universal app for that whole space.
None. Absolutely. No, I agree. No, I agree with that.
I'm not being facetious. I'm pleased to say you said none, because then that's kind of evidence for like, okay, as a general principle, the idea that you can have a ubiquitous universal app just might be more of a wish than a reality. And then you're like, oh, JK, maybe that's not a good idea. For example, let's say that Fantasyland, you want the ability to be able to run at 1,000 miles an hour. Without a lot of caveating, that would be fucking terrible. First problem, as soon as you took the first step, you'd shatter every fucking bone in your body and almost certainly die. Your body can't handle forces like this. Okay, fine. With a body that can handle those forces, I want to be able to run 1,000 miles an hour. Great. Every time you stepped on concrete, you would break it and it would shatter and spray 50 feet of fucking concrete. Everyone. It would damage cars. It would kill people. Look at my fucking God. You ran down the street. It would suction all the cars in towards you, behind you, pull people out of fucking windows. And you're like, all right, that didn't work. I don't actually want to run 1,000 miles an hour is what I'm trying to say. So when you're thinking, okay, we're going to have one app for everything. I mean, like, as a notion, as philosopher and economist Thomas Sowell would call it, it's a fucking sweet notion. Of course, one fucking app, baby.
Sure.
But what that requires is taking your entire development team of engineers who have a finite ability to make upgrades to the app and to make any part of the app good. Facebook's a fucking sweet place, right? What a fucking app. Facebook kind of tries to do it all. You do videos on Facebook, you do chat, you do Messenger, you do message boards. Why the fuck does Reddit exist? It does something better than Facebook. Pure message board with all the frills removed. It turns out that's something someone really liked. Mark Zuckerberg and his whole fucking team couldn't even take that whole social media space for themselves. How the fuck did TikTok come around? Because while Facebook was working on everything else, TikTok was like, we could do short form videos and really crush the shit. Boom, launched, $1 trillion company. And so when we're working on hypertrophy, there's so much to do for making hypertrophy better that if we shift over to being like, and strength, and speed, and power, and athletic performance, where our engineers, which are a finite number of people that have to develop these functions, they're now developing these functions. And then someone else comes into the hypertrophy space and makes an app that's just as good as ours for hypertrophy, except all their engineers are only working on hypertrophy all the time. So it's better now. We lose vast quantities of our hypertrophy subscribers. As well we should. I'd be using that app if it came out. Fuck that. And then we don't have an app anymore. So it's jack of all trades, master of none. Is it theoretically possible to build an app that crushes all of us? Yes. Long-term, several years from now, descendants of large language models, ChatGPT, will just crush everything out for you because they're so fucking smart. They just build you an app right on the spot for whatever you want. That world is coming. But in the real world, for now, that's just not there yet. Why doesn't Lamborghini get into making regular cars for regular people? What? Do you understand how big of a production facility you need to supply regular cars? Also, building regular cars at scale in a way that doesn't make them cost $50,000 each is like really high-end industry knowledge. Apparently, Elon Musk's team bought several Honda Civics and broke the whole car down just to see how the fuck they make it for so little money in preparation for their next Tesla car that's going to cost so little money. Tesla, these are the smartest fuckers in the whole world. They still didn't really yet know how to build a really cheap car. So if they can't do it all, who the fuck are we to do it all? So if you have a space in which you're really fucking good, I think first get really, 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 really good at just fucking doing the best goddamn job in that space that you can. And if you really just closed off the space, like intellectually it's a dead end, we've solved every fucking problem, then we can move on to another app. Now, it's totally possible to have a different offering. We have a very good hypertrophy app and one that does strength. And so if you're a person that does both, for you, that's the best app. How many people do both? Most people just do one or the other. Powerlifters have some sort of interest in hypertrophy, but really just I was going to call it Chad GPT. What's it called? Juggernaut AI is a great app for strength. That's what they should have called it in retrospect, right? They should just rename it to Chad GPT. OpenAI just hit some of the biggest lawsuit in the world. Like, oh, God damn it. So if they're so good at the powerlifting strength realm that just adding some volume into their app is good enough for most people to do hypertrophy plus strength. Strength is their main focus. How many people in the gym, honestly, like the gym, like EOS Fitness in Vegas, how many people do you walk in there and see, like, really give a shit about strength? Fucking nobody. Fucking what? Like 3 people. Everyone else just wants to fucking look good naked. That's hypertrophy. So if we built an app that's pretty good for both, we're actually hitting a very small demographic. If we just make one app that's just strength like Chad did, which is fucking killer app, and then our app for just hypertrophy, that's the best Greenfields approach to change the world in the best way that you can. So the Napoleonic idea of let's just build an app that does it all is sweet, but then in retrospect, it's both a smaller target demographic and the offering is not as good. And then you lose your edge in one thing or the other.
So this app's been in the work really for the last 5 years, but I mean, it's a lifetime's work. I mean, it's a lifetime's worth of work, really. I'm curious because you mentioned PDFs. Most people do PDFs. Most people download these apps and they're like, oh, 3x12, cool, I'll do it again next week, whatever. What do you guys think is missing in a lot of those apps that are out there? I don't know. We don't need to talk bad about them, but I'm like, to Gen Pop, people that are listening, people that are watching right now that have maybe used apps in the past, have done PDFs or even working with trainers. What do you think's missing? What do you think's flawed in that approach that you guys come and bridge that gap with?
Algorithms, code.
Well, you can even talk. I mean, we can even talk principles in terms of like what you think people are missing. Because
a lot of apps are really good at making you a workout. Sweet. The big question is, based on how you did in this workout, based on how your body responded, how tired did you get, how sore did you get, how strong were you? What's the next workout going to be like to get your best possible
You're literally
results?
answering biofeedback questions while you're actually training.
Yeah.
So, like you said, most are just, today's workout is 4 exercises of chest, 3 by 12 to 15 reps. Like, we pull up your favorite influencer app because there are companies that reach out to influencers to make apps for them, and then now everybody fucking has one.
Yes.
Which is like a workout generator app. Like it gives you workouts to do, which for a lot of Gen Pop people is great. And like, totally fine. Like, oh, I do workouts on this app. And very few people ask, like, what's the progression like? Does it detect fatigue? Does it do anything to regulate volume? How is it progressing you on reps? How is it progressing you on load? If you decided you're kind of not feeling it today and you reduce the load, does it think about, well, how many more reps should you do in order to still hit a relative PR? Almost all apps just don't think about things like that because almost all people don't give a shit about things like that. Our app is for serious people who want results with muscle growth, and they're tired of just doing workouts.
Yeah, like you had a personal trainer or two, you're pretty experienced, you got a couple years of training under your belt, and you're like, there's more to this, you know?
Think about a lot of the personal trainers that every time their clients come in, they do something different.
Yep.
A lot of clients, you're rolling your eyes.
It's
That's a man that's been in athletics a long time. So, right. And it's like a lot of clients, right. There's no more frustrated person than a strength and conditioning coach. I'll tell you. You just see the whole world fuck up your shit. Think about the fact that a lot of people think that's great. They're like, that's a feature, not a bug for them. Because they're like, oh my God, it's a different workout. This is great. And they don't realize, like, this is not the road to your best progress. You don't learn biology by reading a different fucking chapter in the book randomly. And you sure as shit don't gain muscle and strength by just doing random shit. But random shit is easy to make an app to do. You just like, here's workouts and here's how you bring it up. And here's really cool videos and demonstrations. That's all really easy to code. You just API all that in. And then you get a lot of good digital artists. And then voila, it's a very straightforward problem. Yeah. The thing is that for people who give a fuck about results at the high level, for people whom a good workout isn't good enough, we were actually training a gentleman who was a former, he actually won the Super Bowl with the Patriots. He was a D lineman. And we had a great talk with him during the workout of there are two types of things you can do in the gym. One is a workout, the other is training. Training means for something, very specific. And that means you really give a fuck. And training is a big fucking deal. And this requires an app that has a little bit more intellectual oomph to it, detects what you do a little better, programs what you're going to do tomorrow and the day after a little better. Absolutely. That's what our app does. It's kind of like there's a developmental project that Microsoft has with the military called the HoloLens, which is like it goes right. It's an integrated helmet system. It's augmented reality, so it helps it chooses targets for you. It helps you raise your weapon and pick what to shoot at. It gives you information about stuff. Integrates with other weapon systems. That is very difficult to build because it actually has to be a prediction engine. It has to recognize real things in the world. What's not difficult to build, and no offense, is like the Pokemon Go app, which just randomly like pops up Pokemon creatures, and you're like, and it just studies the environment just enough to pop up a random fucking Pokemon. Yeah, this is not the same thing as the military needing a fucking weapon system. Yeah. And so, while to the untrained eye, it'd be like, oh yeah, but there's an already solved problem. People say, oh, there's tons of workout apps, but are there workout apps that scientifically, based on autoregulatory feedback, progress the user towards their best theoretical result? And if they're wrong, there's tons of measured feedback to get them on the right track. No, not really. Yeah. So we made one.
It was just, to put it in perspective, you're not getting an app when you just download a workout plan that had 3 sports scientists debate each other for 6 months straight about what certain inputs into the app should do based on all of our education combined, based on training principles that we had to learn for a very long time through multiple years of college. You don't have to hear about directed adaptation. You don't have to hear about the different volume landmarks, things like that. We did all that work up front, and now the algorithm you train and it shits all that stuff out for you.
It'll build you a plan. If you want to take some ownership and change the plan, it can do that. Once you have a plan and you do your first week of workouts, every single week after that tells you exactly how many reps and sets to do of exactly every movement. It even tells you how to warm up. So
based on how, like, if me, Mike, and James are standing over you in the gym and we're like, do this
is what you need to
based on what you're telling us, it's literally what it's doing.
It's like Google Maps is like a very studied cartographer, like someone who fucking knows maps really well, always driving with you. Pretty sweet. I mean, get some good conversation going with him. Yeah. Driving to Ohio, and you're like, so man, do you like dicks? And he's like, yeah, some of them are pretty cute.
I love it.
We're running short on time.
Yeah, we're running short on time. I know you guys have a lot to do.
You love it, but it was the conversation.
Do you guys have a second to do a rapid fire overrated, underrated?
Yes.
Why not?
Okay, overrated, underrated, but you have 1 second to explain afterwards. Hip thrusts.
1 second?
Not 1 second. 1 sentence. Sorry, 1 sentence. Okay. Overrated, 1 sentence, and then on to the next. Hip thrusts.
Jared.
Overrated. You want me to explain now, or do you want Mike to give his answer as well?
That's a good.
You could each
Jared,
give one.
hit it.
You could each give one.
So, we know now that especially now, the stretch position for any muscle group really is very, very advantageous for your muscle growth. Unfortunately, hip thrusts don't seem to do that very well. As far as I'm concerned, I give my clients like about 20% of what they want to do, 80% of what they should do. So a lot of my female clients just like the sensation of hip thrust. Unfortunately, sensation is also a negative check mark for that one. So sensation is cool and everything, but also doesn't tell us much about muscle growth. So hip thrusts, you can do them. It's absolutely fine. Build a bunch of metabolites in your glutes, whatever. But as far as for like the best movements for muscle growth, it's not even in my top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Length and partials.
Mike, you got to give yours.
Oh, everything Jared said, and also they've been studied directly, and they don't even outperform squats as far as glute growth. So hip thrusts are an excellent tool in the toolbox, but to think of them as some kind of special superlative tool for glute hypertrophy is just like probably not true. Length and partials. Length and partials are a very specific tool to get at a very specific revelation. That stretch-mediated hypertrophy seems to be a pretty decent way to grow muscle. Probably one of the more superior ways. Does that mean you have to do a partial? No. Does that mean you should probably think about never really skipping the lengthened portion, the stretch? Yes. Does it mean you can accentuate the lengthened portion to the detriment of the shortened? Probably. Are lengthened partials a way to do that? Definitely, and you should almost certainly try to play around with them. So I think lengthened partials are probably underrated because most people think partials are this. In the sports science community, length and partials might be overrated just because they're so new and so exciting. But like when you tell someone your boy has a 12-inch dick, he's overrated. But if he really has a 10-inch dick, you're like, the girl's like, oh, it's not 12. And then she looks at it, she's like, well, Jesus Christ, I'm still going to get fucked up. Like, length and partials are fucking awesome. They might not be a 12, but they might be a 10. It's only overrated for that reason. But for the fitness industry writ large, I dare you, go to a gym and find someone doing a length and partial. This is not going to happen because almost everyone's doing fucking short and partials because they're easy and you can use a lot of weight.
Yeah, if you'd like to try them, go get on a hack squat and don't lock your knees out all the way and go right back down. Shit's great.
Nobody's trying to do that. Shit hurts.
Hurts.
Hypertrophy training for pro athletes, overrated or underrated? I'd love to hear.
Pro athletes?
Professional athletes that are trying to get better for their sport. Overrated or
I have
underrated?
a bit of a nuanced take on this. So
yeah, actually, most of these are like
I think it's underrated because but in a very specific context. It's overrated in the context that most people think. When like LeBron James does curls standing on a fucking Bosu ball, I don't even know if I want to call that hypertrophy training. It's just like working out or something. Like LeBron thinks that something is good about working out. Doesn't know exactly what it is. Yeah. It's got like a lot of people. See if whoever catches this reference. Do you guys know what a cargo cult is?
Yeah.
Because a cargo cult is basically during the Marshall Plan in the 1940s and 50s. The United States successfully supported the development of a lot of economies in the Pacific Islands. And what they would do is they would fly planes over, cargo planes, to drop food and supplies down to military bases and to other folks in the area who needed them. And there were some tribes in the area that were primitive and just didn't know what the fuck was going on. So they thought like cargo good because it's food and shit. And they literally built like fake traffic control towers because they thought like the gods would like that. And then the gods would reward them with cargo. So it was like a cult that was formed. So the analogy here is like a lot of athletes do things that look like training for hypertrophy, but they're really not. They can know this training thing is good. Let me do this with dumbbells. Success. And it's like, but your movement velocity was total shit. You never even got close to failure. It looks like you're training. Like it looks like a traffic control tower, but no one's coming to it. There's no radio. There's nothing happening.
I haven't heard anything more active.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly.
And so, again, you and I are the pain of being around this shit too goddamn long. So hypertrophy training, real hypertrophy training, is underrated because in a preparatory block before your specialized training, a lot of these motherfuckers can use some fucking muscle mass. Remember Superman, Dwight Howard? People are like, oh, how does he do what he do? Motherfucker, because he's jacked. Why the fuck do you think? Is it rocket science? Look, oh man, like Shaq can really push people out of the fucking zone because he's fucking 300 pounds and he's fucking strong.
That's the honest too.
Mystery solved. So if you can get some athletes are already plenty jacked, they don't need
Yeah,
any
of
more
course.
speed, they need power. But a lot of athletes need some fucking goddamn muscle mass, and they would do very well with it. But they like don't want the temporary hit of being tired, fatigued, sore, and slower. And a lot of athletes always want to be in their A game, and they'll never
Honestly,
take one step forward to take 3 steps back.
Not even athletes, it's coaches mostly.
I agree.
Yeah.
We talked about it last time
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had Dr. Mike. I was like,
It's the coaches
so
seeing those
many-
numbers go down to get
The
fixed.
coach go.
And
The
they
coach
have no
was
idea
like,
what's going on.
Exactly. The coach is like, oh well, we're focusing on heavy eccentrics or whatever, and yeah, your vertical jump right after you finish training might be
Yeah,
short
slower.
a couple inches, and you might be 0.5, 0.6 slower. And
Yeah.
but
Give it
there's
3
a
months.
long term.
People also are worse at playing football after 2 hours of practice. You want to stop practice?
Yeah, exactly.
The guys are good fresh. Let's keep the guys fresh all the time. No more practice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what?
Strength training for bodybuilders.
We had a good conversation.
We had a
about
really interesting conversation with Joe. I'd love to.
Overrated?
Massively overrated.
Overrated as fuck, yeah.
Just begging for injury. And I really want to know what the upside is.
Yeah, because you can.
What's
so,
the upside?
So, like a block of training that we would do is called like a maintenance volume block.
Yeah.
And that is literally the two goals there, kind of like resensitize the muscles for that high volume training again, and sort of back off on volume to take care of those like nagging bullshit injuries, right? Well, you're not taking
maintain muscle mass.
maintain your muscle mass. You're not taking care of the nagging injuries when you're trying to go fucking heavy as shit. So the maintenance block, when you're like a small natural bodybuilder, you're year 2 lifting, like I used to do them as strength blocks.
For passion.
For passion.
Yeah, of
Literally, that
course.
was it. Yeah. And now that I'm like pretty advanced and I'm pretty damn strong, it's just a volume, like a lower volume block. I might do 1 or 2 sets per exercise. The exercise selection goes down a little bit. I'm only training like my biceps and lateral delts twice a week instead of like 3 or 4, because the volume necessary to maintain your muscle is actually much lower than most people think. So you don't have to train it as a strength though. Like that low volume can maintain your hypertrophy indefinitely. As long as you're eating a maintenance and you are in a maintenance volume block, you could literally just have the same amount of muscle mass as long as you like with that volume.
I think you said something important, which is year 2 of natural training, and it's like something for the other thing too is the weight you were using year 2 of natural and what you're using now, like contextually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If it was 225 was if 225 was like you pushing yourself hard in year 10, year 15 of training,
Right.
how much you bench?
A lot.
405 for reps.
For many reps.
You think about the risk factor of that too.
Oh my God.
It's not the same thing.
Just an intellectual exercise here as an example. Imagine you're in a strength block as a competitive bodybuilder. You're a pro. You took 5th in your last show. You're probably going to take 3rd in your next one. You're on your way up. You pop a pec benching 500 for 2.
Which is
You
what
go
I
in the
would
locker
do.
room.
It's literally like
You go in the locker room, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you go, there's a good reason that I did this. And you start looking for reasons in your head, and your fucking GPT in your head runs out of fucking shit, and it goes, I don't know. And you're like, oh my God. Oh my fucking God, I just tore my pec for no fucking upside at all. The strength training doesn't grow an appreciable amount of muscle mass by design. The strength is your tendons, but strengthens them for what? For more strength training.
Which also you're probably not
training
getting
strengthens them.
much more with the loads that somebody that advanced is using anyway, so it's not even.
There's tons of systemic fatigue. It beats the shit out of your joints.
Yep.
We bodybuilders revere powerlifters because they're so fucking impressive and so goddamn ballsy. I see Joe Sullivan getting under fucking 800 pounds for a double. I'm like,
Yeah, I like feel it in
I
my
like close
joints.
my eyes when I watch him. And he's just fucking just hard as nails enough to do that. The risk he's taking is a known risk in order to be the strongest. If that's not on the table, why? It's like someone's like, oh, hey, man, like I typically drive about 120 miles an hour to get to my grandma's house. Someone's like, you trying to die? And they're like, no. I'm like, what is it at grandma's house that requires you to get there 30 seconds earlier than otherwise? If grandma has a team of fucking, S&M hookers ready to give you blowjobs, and she's like, these girls leave in 30 seconds, you better get here. Yeah, step on the gas, 180.
Yeah.
But unless there's a compelling reason to get there really quick, speeding is fucking insane, and it's something stupid people do. No offense, you fucking, you know what I'm saying? Little midnight club ass motherfucker. What you laughing at? You're some kind of Asian, aren't you?
I am.
Aren't you in the midnight club?
Midnight club is my shit. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, there you go. You got like the fucking blue fucking light underneath your car.
Oh,
shit like
absolutely.
that. Yeah. I
was
mean,
in that
honestly,
shit.
like real talk. This is a stupid shit I say that's gonna get me canceled. But like the type of people at the midnight club, like the fashion,
Jerry's, you
the
mean?
girls, the guys. I'm in all of it, bro. I'd fuck half those guys to get to those girls.
Jesus Christ.
And the cars. I'm having sex with cars, fellas. It's all down the fucking drain. And that's right. You're not safe. Well, I've been watching. I like your fashion.
Good shit.
I'm okay to be here. That's why we're on this couch. That's why we're on this couch.
That's it.
We know you guys got to go, but we appreciate you.
Yeah.
We'd love to do a second part because that was got to be some of the best content I think we'll ever put out on the internet. There's nothing like it. But, where can they find you? Just quick recap.
Nowhere, because we're probably canceled after this. I started this off with a discussion of grooming Jared. We're done.
Yeah, it's 2024. We're due for another 2020, I think. So we're fucked.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
We're fucked.
Renaissance Periodization YouTube channel.
Love that.
Jared Feather has his own YouTube channel titled Jared Feather. What an ego fucking maniac.
Yeah,
Really?
Well, I have my own
I feel like
YouTube
it's the
channel.
opposite. If you like our name and shit, like whatever, bit. Or like, you know,
Yeah.
so that's kind of egotistical.
Yeah.
It's just my fucking name.
It's
I
your
was
name.
born
You're just
with
not
it.
a smart guy. You're like, they're
The
like, what's your
real
YouTube
Jared
channel name?
Feather.
You're like, Jared Feather.
Jared.
They're like, what's your name?
Name.
You're like, oh shit, Jared Feather. What's your birthday? You're like, Jared Feather. Google's like, you don't know where you were born. So yeah, Renaissance Periodization YouTube is probably the best place. And then off of that, you can shoot off to any of our other services and get our apps and see more videos of us embarrassing ourselves and getting canceled.
Love it. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having us on.
Of course.
That was awesome.